Hello, everyone. It's Brian, or perhaps I should say g'day, because today is all about Australia. Um, you might know Ben Rankins. He has a channel called Ben Rankins, which, to be honest, is a pretty good channel name. And he has a Show Me Your Australian Music No Prize competition. When I watched that video, I decided immediately that I am not going to participate in this competition because I didn't think I had enough Australian music to make it work. However, Ben called me out and said, he's expecting my contribution, so I gave in and decided, why not? I should just also preface this with the idea that there are certain people who don't believe that Australia even exists. There's a woman who has been proposing a conspiracy theory, or maybe it's true, for several years, maybe 4 or 5 years, that argues that the place, the world's fourth largest country, I think, doesn't exist. And she says that when Britain exported all their criminals, they simply dumped them in the ocean to drown. 162,000 people, she claims, and the continuation of that theory is that anyone who claims they're Australian is an actor. So Ben may well be an actor, and any pilot that says they're flying you to Australia is not flying you to Australia. They're all in on it. They may be taking you to another island or to South America. So I'll leave you with that to decide if it's true or not. I don't know. Maybe Ben can say whether he's an actor or not. And the other thing I will say is that Ben's channel is fascinating because I'm often confronted with music I've never heard before. So long lists of things, like entire videos where I don't know any of the artists. And I have looked some of them up on YouTube and streamed some of the songs, and I have to say there's some really good music, but I've never seen any of it here. So it's always educational. And I feel a little odd not knowing the music. So there are a number of questions. 11, I think there are, and I had to make a couple of adjustments because in a couple of cases I don't have something that matches exactly what he is looking for. So the first one is show a favorite Australian band or artist, and this one's easy to do. It's probably one of the most popular Australian artists. This is AC/DC. I'm messing up the camera here. High Voltage. This is great. This is from '76, and of course this is different from the original Australian pressing. There's a different track listing, as I believe. But this is great. I mean, I think everyone knows AC/DC, and I'm sure everyone loves AC/DC. No surprise there. Second one is to show an album or single. An Australian single or song from the 1960s, and that one I couldn't do. I struggled with that. So I'm going to change the question to be show an Australian single or song from the 80s. The note here is that it doesn't have to be a 7-inch single. It could be from an album. So I'm going to choose something from 1987, and I'm going to choose something that I have on a 12-inch single, and that's from a band called Severed Heads. The track is called Hot with Fleas. I think you'd call this like a proto-industrial, early industrial, maybe that kind of music. The flip side is Canine. And this is in Canada on the Network label. The Network label actually was a really important label for a lot of, I guess, early kind of industrial music. I think in Canada, the probably most famous band in that genre would be Skinny Puppy that was on that label. I think they're still on that label. So Severed Heads from the 80s. Next thing is show an Australian album from the 90s, and I'm going to choose something, of course, not everyone in this band is Australian, but of course the most important person is. This is from 1996, and it's Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Murder Ballads, which is a fantastic record. And this album features a ton of guest stars like PJ Harvey and Kylie Minogue, who's Australian, if I remember correctly. Shane MacGowan is on here. Warren Ellis, of course. So this is, and others. I didn't list them all, but this is fantastic. One of my favorite Nick Cave records. I think it's brilliant. Number 4, show an Australian punk album, and here I failed miserably because unless I'm missing something, I don't have any Australian punk records. So I've changed this a little bit to, how about if I show a Celtic punk band featuring a track about Australia written by a sort of Australian. The guy who wrote this song, Eric Bogle, was originally born in Scotland but moved to Australia and subsequently wrote the song called And the Band Played Waltzing Matilda from the Pogues, Rum Sodomy and the Lash, By the way, that title apparently is attributed to Churchill. I'm going to forget exactly what it was, but he made a reference to that naval traditions are nothing but rum sodomy and the lash, which is I don't know if true, but it's kind of interesting. So yeah, I think you call this Celtic punk, at least it was originally, and the band played Waltzing Matilda is about the Australian campaign at Gallipoli in World War I. All right, so the next one is show an Australian female band, performer, or musician. And this one I, again, really struggled with, but I managed to find a record that has a backup singer who is a woman from Australia. Her name is Jenny Morris, and she sings backup on some tracks on In Excess The Swing, which of course is an Australian band. This is from 84, I think. And did I get that date right? 84, yeah. Gatefold. Pretty good record. I like the original Sin. I think everybody knows. I Send a Message. The Swing is a good song. Dancing on the Jetties. This is a good record, and that's the best I could do with that one. Sorry about that. Show a non-Australian artist that has an Australian connection. Can be a song, album, or any other sort of connection. So in this category, I guess any cover version of any Australian song would have worked. So I tried to go in the Canadian-Australian direction and show a band that covered a song called Wild One, which was originally recorded by Johnny O'Keefe in 1958. And Johnny O'Keefe is apparently an Australian dude. And of course, there's another popular version of this song you might know by Iggy Pop, which it's okay, but for my money, Teenage Head has the best version of Wild One. This is Frantic City, the band's second record from 1980. They're from a city around the corner from Toronto called Hamilton, which is always been a steel producing town. This band is often regarded as Canada's Ramones. I saw them right after this album came out. They're famous for a riot that happened at Ontario Place because the place filled up too quickly and everyone else wanted to get in. Sadly, Frankie Venom there and the Tide died several years ago. But this is, I don't know if this is widely available in Australia, but if you like, this is punk. This is something Ben might like if you like punk. If you don't know this, but this is a great record. And so Wild One is a cover song. Brand New Cadillac is also a cover song that was also done by The Clash. But the rest are, as I understand it, all original tracks, and I think this is great. All right. Show an Australian release from the last 10 years. And again, this is going to be a record that has sort of a continuum of Australian members, British members, American members. So there's two Australians, someone from the UK and someone from the States. And I picked Grinderman 2, the remix record, which also features Matt Berninger from The National, Robert Fripp's on here, and a bunch, Joshua Holmes, and a bunch of other people. This is on two records. And of course, Nick Cave is in this band, if I didn't mention that. Show a record with an Australian reference in the cover artwork. So I chose an Australian band that has an Australian reference in the artwork, and that is Hunters and Collectors. Now, you might be wondering what is the Australian reference, but, isn't Australia littered with snakes? Aren't there snakes everywhere? It ranks in the, I think there's a number of people die every year from snake bites. So we have two snakes entwined around a caduceus. So Hunters and Collectors being an Australian band, and snakes. When I think of Australia, I think of snakes. So that's just the way it is. Of course, this record has Throw Your Arms Around Me, which was a big hit over here. Lyrics, yeah. So snakes in Australia. So show an Australian compilation. All right, so this is from 1979, released in Australia on Star Call Records, and it is Chameleon by David Bowie, covering the years 1972 to 1979. So that runs through Starman right through to Look Back in Anger and DJ for 1979. Sydney, Australia. And so I think I have no choice but to answer the next question too. Show an Australian record label, which this is it. This is Star Call Records. And it says, what does it say on here? Yeah, Sydney, Australia, Star Call Records. So this is a pretty interesting compilation. Yeah, I don't remember where I got it. I didn't get it in Australia. Somehow it was in a record bin over here and I picked it up. But just because we're talking about Australian record labels, I'm going to show you a CD because I did 2 records for one thing and I didn't know if a CD counted, so I'm going to show a CD. And there's a Canadian artist called Aidan Baker who's a multi-instrumentalist. He is a poet. He plays guitar through some really interesting loops and effects. I guess you'd call his music drone, minimal, ambient. And he's been in a number of bands as well. And I tried to count the number of releases he had, but it's somewhere around, it looks like it's 100 things, 100 different things. And so this is a 3-inch CD. 3-inch CD here in this case, which has 4 tracks. It's called Cicatrice. And I'm just showing you this because this is actually from Australia. It says Dreamland Anti-Sound Net. So Dreamland Records, 2003. I don't know if you can see it. It doesn't really have a nice label, but it says Dreamland Recordings, 2003. The interesting thing about this is it's from that record label is in Keilor, which apparently is a suburb of Melbourne. So it's right around, it's in, right around Melbourne. So I thought that might be of interest. So that's sort of an Australian record label. And the last question is AC/DC, yes or no? And Ben says the correct answer is yes. So yes, AC/DC, yes, yes. Whether you like the Bon Scott era or the Brian Johnson era better is, I guess, a question. But this is probably the wackiest AC/DC record cover, in my opinion. But it's good. Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. So that is it. I had until the end of April. I made it. And I guess I'll say thanks for twisting my arm. And have a look at Ben's channel. I'm sure many people already know it. It's always a musical education. And I guess dig out your Australian records if you have any. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.